Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hiker Sessions, where we talk backpacking and hiking with thru-hikers, day hikers, and everyone in between. And I'm really excited to have another member of I call it my tribe. You have your tramily on these thru-hikes that you spend time with, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 people, but the people that you come in contact with, every day or every other day, or you're leapfrogging each other, that's what I call my tribe. Good 10 to 20 people out there that I consider good friends of mine. And one of those ones today is Beta Bear. So welcome to Hiker Sessions, Beta Bear. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I was really excited to talk to you for a couple reasons. Well, let me step back a little bit. Bear and I met at the one-room schoolhouse in Virginia. I can't remember exactly, and I could look it up, what mile marker that was, but I remember it as plain as day because it was incredible trail magic. It was just these big bins full of Gatorade bars and Gatorade, and it was awesome. So I'll never forget where I first met you. But like I was saying, I was excited just to talk to you because you're one of my favorite people on the trail, honestly. And then I really wanted to get your perspective because I met a bunch of people from the UK and Europe and Germany and other countries, but you're the one I probably know the best. So I was really interested to get your perspective, how you felt after the trail, both mentally and geographically, because I only live 2 hours from the trail, and I think a lot of the people that live on the East Coast could get to the trail in probably an hour or two if they really needed to get out there. For you, it's a whole big deal. So you growing up over there, how did you even get interested in hiking the AT in another country?
Yeah, so I've always loved backpacking and hiking and all that sort of stuff. There's actually a good friend of mine. He hiked the Camino quite a few years ago, and he'd heard from some Americans that were doing the trail about the Appalachian Trail, and he thru-hiked in 2016, I believe it was. And it was from him I'd heard about it, and I always thought, the stories he had, it was inspiring, incredible adventure. Never thought it was something that I'd sort of mentally get myself to do or something like that. I had a big fear of heights and things like that, which over the years I sort of got myself past that. And I just got to the point that I was like, I'm ready for a big challenge, see some new sights, live a different life for a little bit and go on an adventure and have that mental and physical challenge. So then I started saving to be able to do it.
Yeah. Did you spend more money than you thought you would?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What percentage? I won't ask you exactly how much, but like what kind of, for people maybe planning, what extra percentage should they build in?
Yeah. So for me, I probably overspent by about $2,000 to what I thought I would. Around that, which I budgeted, I think it was about $1,200 a month was what I budgeted on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do, right?
Once you hit towns and find the bars and things like that, the budget doesn't go very well as it does being on trail.
Sounds like food. So food and drink was probably your biggest overage, it sounds like.
Yeah, I would say so, for sure.
Yeah, well, you got to eat. So you were talking to your buddy and that, you had these illusions or whatever in your mind of doing it. Did you immediately start, like you go to the internet and hit YouTube or read books or anything? How did you because it was 8 years between when he did it and you talked to him about it and then when you did it for that time, what did you do in that time period?
So initially I just didn't think it was something that I'd ever get to do myself or bring myself to do that sort of challenge. And then it was only sort of 2 years prior to actually getting on the trail that I sort of figured, you know what, this is something I want to do. So from that point, I did quite a lot of YouTube of, and like the Facebook groups and things like that to see what common gear people took and, budget wise and just trying to get my head around it a little bit. And obviously I had my friend who I could pick his brains about everything as well and logistics of just getting the visa to be able to take 6 months out in America. So that was really helpful to sort of get that information from somebody who's done it already. But yeah, it was sort of a couple of years building up that, yeah, I definitely watched quite a few YouTube videos, which almost didn't want to do because I didn't want to spoil the adventure of it. But I'd say for all the videos that I had watched, there's still so much out there to see that you're never going to cover, a portion of it on a YouTube video sort of thing. So,
and they never show you like the bad days usually, for the most part. When you're waking up and it's pouring and you have to put your tent together. How difficult for you coming from like outside the United States? You mentioned your visa. Was that process very difficult, that paperwork, or not a big deal really? And you had your friend helping you, but in general, what did you think of that process?
Yeah, it was straightforward enough. Obviously, coming from the UK, you can get up to a 3-month visa online, dead simple. Obviously, to get up to 6 months, you then have to book in for an interview at the embassy in London. So I had to wait about 3 months to get my interview booked in. And then from that, it was sort of done in a day. You have interview with 2 different people at the embassy. They go through your background and ask what your intentions are, why you want to go out there for that long and things like that. And then after that, a couple of weeks later, they take your passport and send it back with the visa printed out. So it was relatively straightforward, but it was quite a long process. It was longer than I expected, thinking you have to wait 3 months before, you even get an interview to see if you're going to be allowed in the first place.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite a long... Did either of the people you interviewed with say, oh yeah, I've talked to other people doing that, I kind of got an idea of what you're doing, or were they just by the book? And
not really, yeah. They were pretty formal. They were pretty to the point, didn't want small talk particularly. It was, I'll ask the question, I want a straight answer, and that's, how it goes sort of thing.
They didn't ask you where you were tenting the first night or anything, like they didn't care.
No.
So you had your buddy who did it. So obviously you talked to him and heard some stories. What were your expectations of when you hit ground in Georgia starting out?
Yeah, it's hard to say because everything was pretty much an unknown of, from the people to the landscapes to the wildlife. There's nothing like it in the UK for wildlife wise. And, I was ready for a physical and mental challenge and hoping to see some good sights along the way. So that was as far as my expectations went, really. And I figured I'd give it a couple of weeks. And if I felt, I was enjoying it at that point, pretty much within a week, I knew as long as I was physically able, I was going to keep going.
You said you'd watch a few videos. Were there anything that you'd seen on a video, like AT NOBO, or anything like in particular along the trail that you were looking forward to hitting other than the sign and at Katahdin?
Yeah, I mean, I think like definitely AT NOBO was one. Because I'd seen some of my friends' pictures and, such a standout point. And definitely from the start of the trail, I was like, looking forward to getting to that point, get your photo up there, that sort of thing. And it just looks epic because it overhangs, and it's a huge drop below. So,
looks more dangerous than it is, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you think, was your plan to just, I'll start out, I'll do my week or two and get into it and then just kind of do my own thing? Did you think you'd probably just hike alone where you started alone?
Yeah. And I sort of knew that there was quite a lot of people that attempt the trail every year, in the thousands. But I still had in my mind from that it would still be quite spread out. I mean, I started 18th. Was it 18th? No, I flew over 18th. 20th of March, I started the trail, which was sort of right in the real popular time to start. But I definitely didn't think it would be as busy as it was. Obviously, the further you get along, the more people spread out. So yeah, I definitely figured it would be more of a solo mission. You'd see people from time to time and, yeah, definitely didn't expect the community that was around, which was an awesome surprise, you know, and a bunch of great people, and obviously hiked with Huckleberry and Busted pretty much all the way. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Were you
wasn't my
nervous?
initial plan at all, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Were you nervous about, when you think about, well, I'll probably, there'll be people around, but I'll probably spend a lot of my time alone. Was there any anxiety whatsoever of like, well, gee, where am I going to get food, or how am I going to know where to resupply or get a shuttle or
Yeah,
any of those things? Did you have questions lingering once you hit the trail?
yeah, definitely. And I started off with the AWOL guide, the book, rather than Far Out, and I was sort of looking through that before flying out, and I was like, you know, to figure out where you're going to get off trail and back on, and the logistics of doing that, and where to get food from, and how many days worth you need to carry, and things like that. But honestly, within a week or two, it's pretty self-explanatory. It figures out, and everybody else is talking about, you know, if they're going in and you can get a ride with them, or, you know, we ended up a lot of the time just putting a thumb out and not worrying about paying for shuttles, because, yeah, that racks up quickly with cost as well. But yeah, it was definitely, yeah, you have those sort of thoughts of like, yeah, how do I work everything out? And I'm definitely someone who likes to plan things. So I'd like to be, right, I've got 4 days, get to this point, and then I get off, get food, get back on, and then I'm good for another however long. And there are certain sections of trail, especially, you know, you get into like New York area where you got the delis, things like that. I mean, you could carry a day's worth of food and be fine to, you know, get food from somewhere every day. But yeah, as you get on, it definitely, yeah, after the first week, all those sort of worries were gone, because you realise actually it's much simpler logistically than it first seemed.
I agree. And then, like you said, the community helps. We all face challenges out there at one point or another. What was it might have been the only challenge, or maybe the first challenge that you had to take a step back? You're like, whoa, either mental or physical, or maybe even logistics wise. Do you remember anything that comes to mind? You're like, wow, what's this all about here? How am I going to get through this?
Yeah, I think probably mentally was the first thing that kind of shocked me, because I was sort of prepared to know that I'm going to miss home, friends, family, all that sort of thing. But within the first week, I found myself missing everybody back home. And I thought, oh, this isn't going to hit me until a month or 2 months into trail. But it was like within a few days, I found myself like missing home a lot, which that was sort of mentally, that caught me off guard a bit, because I wasn't expecting to have that feeling straight away. But at the end of the day, for me to fly to Atlanta, it was a 10-hour flight. So I always had in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm 10 hours away from home. I'm not really that far away. You know, so some of the other guys who are from America, they're further away than 10 hours. And yeah, but they're obviously in a different state or whatever. So it's, yeah, that sort of helped me through, and being like, you know, I'm not really that far away. It's a small world these days. So yeah.
It is, with FaceTime. And I know that hit me from time to time. And one little FaceTime call or something like that, just to see them. I can't imagine doing it back in the 70s with no cell phone, no Far Out. I mean, it would have been like me being in a different country, right? I mean, from Maine to Georgia is very far. I know you talked about, was it your niece and nephew who were kind of following along with you? Were you able to keep in touch with them, and did they follow along, and did they have thousands of questions when you got back?
Yeah, I mean, I kept everyone up to date as much as I could. I had a WhatsApp group for the family, so I'd message on there daily as long as I had signal, which surprisingly the signal was pretty good for the most part on the trail. There wasn't that many times. Yeah, you'd always have it, usually at least once throughout the day, be it on top of a mountain or whatever. So I was sending pictures, doing Facebook updates and all those sort of things to keep everyone in the loop as much as possible. But yeah, for my nephew and niece, I had the big, I don't know, who's over 1 meter long, the Appalachian Trail map. So yeah, I'd tell them where I was and they could search it and try and find where I was on the map. It was a slow process to begin with, because you look at that map and, I've done 10 miles today. You can't really tell the difference. But once I get to different towns or a different state or something like that, they enjoyed following along with that.
Yeah, the marker doesn't move much from day to day. You mentioned Huckleberry and Busted. When did you, and I know you guys basically did about the whole thing together, when did you hook up with them in a number of days, like on the trail? Was it long before you got together with those guys? Or?
Yeah, so I think for me, I was maybe a week into trail, something like that. And it was just coming out of Georgia into North Carolina. And I'd met Huckleberry and his daughter Stomps at a stream, getting water, having a break, chatted with them for a little bit, showed him a picture of a bear that I'd seen already, like within a few days of, I think it was about a mile before Blue Mountain Shelter. And then obviously, I can't remember what the gap was. So we went down to a gap after that, which was just before you go up Standing Indian Mountain. And Busted had been off trail for a couple of days. He'd got back on. He'd already been hiking with Huckleberry. And yeah, so then we sort of all met up again at that gap, and there was quite a few other hikers there. And there was bear alerts everywhere, and that's when we sort of all decided we'd stick together as a group, safety in numbers, that sort of thing. And yeah, so that was the first day that I'd met the pair of them, and yeah. So you
led me right into a great story about how you got your trail name, Beta Bear. So you guys got together for safety. How did you end up getting your trail name?
Yeah, so that was on the top of Standing Indian Mountain. It was funny, really, because there was about 12 of us camped at the top, and there was a brilliant view spot up there. We had the most serene sunset. It was absolutely stunning. We'd all agreed as a group, if anyone hears a bear or anything like that, make some noise, and everyone would come out and would all make noise. And yeah, it got to about 9:30 at night. Sure enough, I could hear something down by my bear hang, thinking, why does it have to be mine? But anyway, I waited a minute and I could still hear it. So I thought, okay, got out, shouted at it, hey bear. And sort of looked around, and there was no movement from any of the tents. And I thought, oh, great. But then a minute or so went by, and then Huckleberry come out with a pot and spoon, and then got Busted out as well. And the three of us shooed the bear away. 15 minutes later, there was a couple of ladies section hiking, and they were started shouting and blowing whistles and that, saying the bear was behind their tent, like round by their food. So the same three of us got out again, shooed it away, and then figured this is going to keep happening. So we decided we'd pull an all-nighter, got campfire back up and going. The three of us stayed up throughout the whole night and had it every probably 15-20 minutes round it, somebody different spot. Once you get it away from one, they'd be round to the next. We had 2 or 3 throughout the night, and yeah, so we had that till about 3:30 in the morning was the last one that come in, which had come into camp because we'd pulled all the food into camp at that point.
Great plan.
Because we were going around like so many different points, and we were looking every which way, and we thought, this is getting crazy. Let's just pull everything in, and we can see him coming into us, and you can hear him from a mile away. And so it went like that. And because I'd already seen a bear literally 3 or 4 days into the trail, and then the bear, the first time it come in at Standing Indian was to my food bag. So yeah, it was between Huckleberry and Busted who come up with the name for me, which ended up pretty much just calling me Bear by the end of it. But that's where it originated from.
Yeah, it's kind of scary a little bit. Like, that's not something in our day-to-day lives we have to do, is protect our food. I know you had a great relationship with Busted and Huckleberry, and also Huckleberry's dog Wyatt. How much did the friendship and the bond you formed with those guys surprise you? And then what's it mean to you now?
Yeah, massively. As I say, the people side of it wasn't something I'd expected so much. and they're two lifelong friends now. I'm nearly 5 months since I finished the trail. At this point, we still talk on a weekly basis at least, sort of thing. And obviously after having that night, we'd all bonded over the facts that we knew we had each other's backs and we were looking out for each other. And when you're living the life on the trail, everyone's in the same sort of mental, physical expedition. So you've all got that kind of camaraderie anyway. But obviously, because I spent so much time with those guys, absolutely lifelong friends, which didn't see that coming at all. And then obviously, like you say, your extended tribe, people like yourself and others that I've met along the way that you end up hiking with, for a few hundred miles here or there or whatever, and still keep in touch with quite a few other people as well, which been really nice.
Yeah, it was definitely a great part. Probably, like you said, the best part of the trail for me as well. I see the sign, your summit picture over your shoulder there, and you mentioned it's been almost 5 months now. What, when you walk by that, I mean, I have pictures here. I walk in out of my office and I'll glance at them. Like, when you look at that picture of you on the summit, what feelings or emotions does that bring back to you? Or, how does it make you feel when you just happen to glance at it?
It just puts a big smile on my face all the time. Like I say, 5 months from being back home in the UK, and there hasn't been a day goes by where I don't think about the trail or being on the trail and, living that simpler life. You're stress-free, just out there adventuring, enjoying it, seeing what's coming around the corner. That's.
Did you have a hard time working back in it? And you own your own electrician business, right?
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to get back to work? First question. And then the other question was like, how difficult was it to jump back into that complexity of regular life?
Yeah, it was really difficult. Coming back home, I had a lot of friends and family that I wanted to see and wanted to see me and hear everything about my trail and all that sort of thing. Everything felt quite overwhelming, for sure. For a few weeks, it was very busy, seeing a lot of people. It very much felt like I was just back to visit everybody, and in a week or two, I'd be back at home, which was in the woods for me now. But for work, I sort of got about 2 or 3 weeks in from when I got back home. I started doing a couple of jobs, just easing myself back into it rather than straight into full-time work again. And about a month in, I'd started back at work, and wasn't too long before it just felt like back in the daily grind, and it was all a dream.
Have you tried to stay active at all? Like when you got back, or how were you physically? How was your body when you got back?
Really good. I say to everybody back home and that I really feel like I was definitely very lucky out on trail, because mentally is one thing, and that's definitely, I'd say, is a bigger challenge than physically. But it's so easy to twist your ankle or your knees give out on you, or get back problems. And there's so many people that I'm sure you met as well, that even up to 2,000 miles in on trail and they'd have to get off because of an injury or something like that. So definitely feel very lucky that didn't really have any issues on trail at all. I had the obvious little bit of chafing here and there and things like that, but physically I just got stronger and stronger as I walked on, and more capable to do more miles. And even after finishing, still felt great. So, and kept up with it, and not as much as I'd like, because back in the working world now, but definitely on the weekends and things like that, try and get out on the hills and things that are close by to me to keep outside. Is always happier when outside and walking and just being out in it.
That was the one thing I really missed, was being outside. And now, finishing, and now having it be winter in Maine, you really have to bundle up. It's really cold to get outside and do that. What were some of your best memories or favorite sections or highlights of the trail? Or just a couple that might maybe come to mind to you.
Yeah, I mean, favorite section, Maine was stunning. That is by far, that was like the icing on the cake at the end of the trail. It was such a beautiful area, big mountains to go up and down. You got your lakes, and yeah, that was just stunning as a whole. The 100-mile wilderness, when myself, Huck and Busted, we stayed on a little beach the one day, and we sort of figured out that the weather was looking good for the next sort of 10 days. And, I was coming up to the end of my visa, but I was like, I don't need to be there a few days before, because that's not going to affect, the weather's not going to affect summiting or anything like that. And as you can see, we had an absolutely stunning day on the summit. So we actually decided the next morning to just take a zero on the beach. And we spent the whole day there. There was about 12 hikers the night before, and they all pushed on in the morning. And the three of us stayed behind with Wyatt. And yeah, we just chilled out on the beach the whole day in the middle of the 100-mile wilderness. The sky is littered with stars, and had a good old swimming session, and big old fires and things like that. And that was a really fun time. And and we did the aqua blazing in the Shenandoahs. So we did a 3-day canoeing trip through there, which it was a nice little break from walking, seeing everything from a slightly different perspective. Out of the tree line a little bit, out of the woods a little bit, and exploring in a different fashion, which was great fun. I mean, the list is endless of good times.
Yeah, the more you think about it, the more you can come up with.
Yeah.
What did you think about? Everybody talks about the AT community and things. Was there anything, either a trail magic or something that didn't even involve getting Snickers or soda or anything that kind of blew you away? Like you were like, wow, that is just so generous or helpful. We all experience help along the way, especially in the southern part. But anything come to mind for you in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, as a whole, the trail magic was amazing, and the things people would do for you to help you out, just to support you on your hike, was incredible. Definitely one of the top moments was, I don't know if you met him or not, a chap called Fleck, who was hiking. He had to get off because of foot trouble around Hot Springs, and he came up to, I think is it Monson, before you get into the 100-mile. Yeah, he driven up to there and spent a couple of days and looked after us massively. We were at the is it Shaw's Hiker Hostel, and he sorted us out with a food drop and big resupply for the three of us. And then on top of that, he looked to the state of my shoes, and he was like, "I'm not seeing you, not finish the trail now, because my shoes were falling apart at this point." And fair play, he bought me some new trail runners, which was just, you don't know how to accept such a gift like that. But he refused to let me leave the store without buying them for me. And so I'll be forever grateful for that gift, because that was, that last 100 miles or so in comfy shoes. So.
Brand new shoes. That's an amazing story. And you know what I found, because I felt like you sometimes, like, wow, I need to pay you or give you some money. I found that the people who do that got so much pleasure from helping people, whether it was buying new trail runners or just a simple hitchhiker, that I started to understand that, I think, the further north I got. So I still might say, let me give you a couple bucks or something, but I could see that if I didn't do it, it would almost deprive them of that enjoyment. How far did he have to drive? Where did he come from to come up to Monson? Because Monson's not an easy place to get to.
Yes, well, he actually lives in Florida. He'd been on a cruise with his wife, and Huckleberry had got off trail to see his daughter for her birthday. And then he was, I think it was Boston Airport, he got back to, and he was putting out to social media, "Can anyone help me get back to trail," basically, so we could all finish out together. And it was at that point, I think, Fleck linked up with Huckleberry, and he ended up driving him all the way up to Monson. And then, it was about a day later that I was then walking into that point. So they'd stayed in a cabin the night before. Then I'd saw them in the morning, and they just looked after us for the whole time.
That's like about a 4-hour drive. I mean, that's
right.
Just doing that alone, just giving your time, let alone the other stuff. This is a question I've asked a couple of people I've had on here. And honestly, I don't think I asked myself or even realized it till a good probably 3 or 4 months later. Were you proud of yourself for finishing the trail?
Oh, massively, yeah. Yeah, I mean, for quite a while, it didn't really sink in of what a feat it was. And even now, I don't think it does in as such. Because it's just kind of, when you're out there doing it, it's like, just get up and walk. It's not too hard to think about. You just get up and do it every day. It's simple, really, as long as your body can do it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely the most epic adventure I've done in my life so far. And physically, I've done some 10+ mile days of hiking and things like that, but never anything thru-hike style. So just seeing how well my body could adapt to the trail, and mentally, obviously, you overcome a lot of things and you have a lot of time to think. So you got a lot of time to just think about, things in your past or anything else. So you got a lot of processing time. So to sort of go through all of that and get to the end of it and complete the challenge. It felt amazing for sure.
That processing, it's such a huge part of it, because even though you said, I'd say, well, I hiked with Solar, or you hiked with Bus or Huckleberry, you still, during the day, you're on your own a lot, and a lot of time to process and get in your head. Were there any revelations or anything that came to you that either one, you said, when I get back home, I'm going to implement that into my life, or even something that you're like, when I get back, I'm going to tell this person this or that, or any things of that nature?
I don't know if there's anything specifically. I definitely wanted to take the sort of cliche saying of, the trail provides and things like that, of just not stressing about things. Things will figure out, things will work out. Don't worry about it. It's not that big a deal. I definitely wanted to take that back with me, of being like, it's okay, it'll figure out. It's not a big deal. We don't need to worry about this. Honestly, when we started really believing that on trail, you get a lift, you get a ride. It'd be like, oh, no one's coming down this road, and then this random car would come down and they'd give you a lift, and you couldn't write it sometimes of like how opportunistic you can be for things like that. So that was definitely a big thing. But I don't know, with like mental side, there wasn't anything specifically that was like a huge revelation or anything like that. But I definitely enjoyed processing time. I think I went just over 1,000 miles without listening to any music or having earphones in or anything like that. For one, just enjoying the sounds that are around, the nature and everything else, but also having that time to just process in your own mind through everything as well.
So you finished the Appalachian Trail, you're back home, and you probably are like you're thinking about it, if not daily, quite often.
Yeah.
Do you have anything in your future that you've got in your mind, like, I want to plan and I want to do this big epic adventure next? Anything like that out there for you?
Yeah, PCT is definitely next on my list. The AT, you're in the trees a lot of the time. You're in that green tunnel, and I didn't realize when I started the AT that actually that's the more physically demanding of the trails. Obviously, it's not quite as long, but it's tougher physically. So yeah, I'd love to get out there and go through the desert, the mountains, and see the scenery, see the sights.
Do you have a year in mind, or?
Yeah, so 2027 is when I'd like to do it. Obviously, I'd have to see how finances go and see that I'm at a point that I can take 6 months out again. you know, it's quite a big thing to do. You're paying a mortgage back home and saving up the money to do everything. But if I could afford it, I'd be out doing trails all the time. It was the reality I'd like to live, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I don't particularly ever go down the gear rabbit hole too much, but is there anything like your gear setup that you finished with on Katahdin? What, if anything, would you change out for? And again, gear, you know, advances every year. It gets better and new stuff and lighter stuff and more expensive stuff. But as we stand today, is there anything that you would change out if you did the PCT in 27?
I don't know that there's anything I'd change out. Possibly my backpack. I had the Osprey Exos 58, which was really comfy. Loved it. But I think, yeah, especially if you're into the Sierras or whatever and there's snow everywhere, I'd be much happier having a waterproof backpack that I can just chuck on the ground and not worry about it soaking through or anything like that. But as far as gear of what I took, I was really happy with everything I had. Everything worked great. I mean, I did do a lot of research into what to take before going out there, so I had a fair idea of what works and what doesn't. But yeah, maybe go for a freestanding tent over a trekking pole tent, just for the ease of pitching up if you're in sandy areas where it's not so easy to set up a trekking pole tent. But for the lightweightness of a trekking pole tent, is going to be hard to weigh up, what the best option will be.
I think you're and myself, for like a lot of people, once you get that first long hike out of the way, the gear's still important. You need the gear, but it almost mentally becomes a little secondary. Like, because you talked about how the mental part is so big. Yes, you need a place to stay in at night and thing, a good tent, but it doesn't seem as important.
No, right? No, not really. It's as long as you got food and water and shelter, and you're not at the point of freezing at night or anything like that, you're all good.
Yeah, everything else will work out. Well, look, I appreciate you coming on and doing this, and it's just, I use as a excuse to chat with my good friends, so get them on my channel, which I have enjoyed. It's kept me connected to the trail, but selfishly, I just like getting you guys on, a lot of the people in my so-called tribe and chatting and staying connected, because it really feels good to see you guys. If you do end up, for sure, once you lock in that date for the PCT, if I'm still doing this, I would love to follow along with you, some little checkouts, maybe some of your preparation.
Or come out and hike with us. Yeah,
maybe too. Twist my arm. I would love to do another long trail for sure. I got home and I'm like, well, that was my one. I'll never do that again. But
because that's what you were saying. You said, this is my long trail and I'll be done.
Yeah, then it's just something about it gets in your blood, you know. And
sure.
I think it's only certain people. There's probably, I don't know. I'd be interested. We'll finish up with this thought. I'd like your thoughts on this. If you finish the trail, if you are able to finish it, what percentage of those people 6 months out say, I'm never going to do a long hike again, right? Like, there must be something that makes you want to do it again. Do you think?
Yeah, I'm sure there is people that are like, I'm sick of it. I'm done with it now. Because I'm sure some people would probably push through just to say, I've done it. I've finished that challenge. Because once you get so far, whether you enjoy it or not, you got that kind of competitiveness in you that you're going to finish it out. But I'd imagine the overwhelming majority would want to get back out. I mean, I'd do the Appalachian Trail again happily, and I think most other people would. It was brilliant.
Because it would be different, right? It's different every year, different people you're going to meet and everything like that. Well, look, absolutely. I won't hold you up any longer. You're not close to probably bedtime, but you're 5 hours ahead of me. So I'll let you get some dinner there or what have you. And again, thanks for taking the time to do this. And now that I've got you all set up on WhatsApp, don't be a stranger. If you're thinking of me, just give me a shout, or drop me a picture. I'll be thinking of you this summer. I do the 100-mile wilderness every year, and Sand Beach, that beach that you talked about, where you guys spent the whole day and zeroed, I've it's never lined up whenever I do it, the 100-mile wilderness every year, to spend the night there. But this year, I'm going to spend the night there.
Yeah, it's so worth
just
it.
in honor of you guys. And I'll send you a picture, because it is an awesome spot. It's one of my favorite spots in the 100-mile wilderness for sure. So, hey, thanks again, and I will talk to you soon. Okay, friend?
Yeah, take care.
All right, you too. Thank you for coming on.